I think most of you will have heard from me and expected me to make an announcement at least a month later. Because it does, in a normal process of times, it does take a lot of time to go into the underlying information that we receive from the operators. But I think based on the feedback that we've been receiving from commuters, there was a sense of urgency to it, and this year we forced the information to come to us more quickly, and we did accelerate our process so that we could make this announcement earlier. But putting it in the correct perspective of time, actually it's not earlier. We just did it faster. In normal circumstances, we would have announced it mid-year, but we actually did delay it until now to coincide with the opening of the CCL 4 and 5. So there was a delay, but yes, for this year, the process, we sort of speed it up by pushing very hard for the information that we need.
They petitioned you last year to ask for concession. They are looking to return to foreign letters, foreign pages. What would you say to this group who again would likely miss out on concession plans?
Well, there are a lot of different groups that make various requests, and certainly a group of disabled people, their needs to be attended to. And over time, I'm sure it will be addressed. But right now, we have only that much that we can tackle at any one time. And for this year, we decided to focus on senior citizens. The disabled group is not being ignored. Of course, there's a lot of chat, a lot of consideration being given. Starting point really is to have the respective ministry looking after the disabled to have a view of it as well. And I think the challenge is to define the group. What do you mean? What is the population of disabled people that you want to help? There are temporary disability, there's permanent disability, there's a range of disability, there's physical disability, there's mental disability, a whole range. So really, you've got to grapple with it and have some clear definitions, the group that you want to help, and then work out how do you go about doing it effectively. Yeah. So I think in time to come, sadly we can't tackle everything in one go. But certainly they can take comfort that they're not being ignored.
Does it include the poly students as well?
Everyone who has given us feedback is on our radar screen, and over time each year you see us trying to tackle different dimensions of it. Some take longer. It took us 3 years to address the issue of transfer penalty. That's out of the way. It took us a number of years to work gradually towards a change into distance-based fare. So major things have been tackled. Now we are addressing this other group interest, the feedback that we have. But unfortunately, whilst trying to look into all those issues, more pressing ones are commuters' reaction of wanting higher quality standard, faster response time. So we have to tackle in terms of the operators, increasing buses, increasing bus captains, and you can't do it all in one go. Yeah.
The data for the affordability track.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us where you get it from.
This is the second medium and our
Department of Statistics.
DOS.
Which household income?
It's based on the second quintile.
But they do the surveys once every 4 years.
For the base, that's correct. For the
Yeah.
base, but we have the yearly numbers as well. For the which household income.
From DOS,
Yeah.
they have yearly survey.
No, the surveys establish the base, then they have yearly update based on wages changes. But I think your question is whether it's timely to review the base. So I think we have to wait for DOS to do that. Reviewing the base is a phenomenal task. It's a massive task. It's not something you can do annually. So the base has been there. It's been running for a few years, but every year you do have enough figures to update it, to have an estimate.
How much does this reflect reality?
Well, we believe it does. Although I have received a feedback from one of the commuters who actually sent me a note to say Yeah, the percentage of my household income on transport has reduced because we have made do with leisure activities. I'm sure there's some truth in that for some families. And that's the reason why this year you noted that we do acknowledge that there will be families that need help. And this year, I think the government will be providing the help through transit vouchers. Yep.
Could you share with us more on how the councils make decisions on the 1% overall fare increase and not like 0.5 or 1.5%, but 1%?
Well, I think it probably take me a whole day. But a lot of it is trying to do a number crunching. Let me start at the point when we say X% increase. What do we mean? And really it is the operator's revenue, and we allow it to move by X%, whether it's upward or downwards. So you get a certain value. Having got it, then there are so many ways to achieving that value in translation. In the old days, before distance-based fare, then we have to grapple and decide the fare stages. Shorter fares increase by 1 cent, 2 cents, longer distances by less, and so forth. Now distance-based is a bit easier. So you work on 3 cents, 2 cents, that ends up too much. 2 cents, 1 cent, you distribute it, it comes out just about the right figure. So 1% translates into about $14.5 million in terms of revenue. I got the figure right. It's about that, 14.5 to 15 million, about 15 million. Had we gone for 2.8, it would be closer to 48 million. Okay, so the percentage gives us a figure of 15 million. Then the challenge is, how do we achieve this 15 million? And there's so many ways of doing it. I could say, forget about the 1 cent for senior citizens and plow it all into adults. Or I could spread it, some to adults, some to senior citizens, some to younger children and all that. So in the whole deliberation, then we say, no, children, all that, don't touch. Senior citizens, we can give the 1 cent increase, but if, as seen in the presentation, in spite of the 1 cent increase, we did something else to tweak it. The first fare stage, we increased it to 3.2 kilometers. So it negates the 1 cent, and therefore senior citizens traveling in that shorter distance actually gets a benefit from it. And then we also tweak the differentiated adjustments and have a uniform adjustment of 4 cents instead of 4 to 19 cents. So if you look at the step that was presented to you, overall senior citizens will find a savings on it if they're traveling on that line. So there are many ways to cut the cloth, but at the end of the day, it must end up into the design that we have decided on, the outfit that we decided. In this case, it's $15 million. On top of that, SMRT has in addition offered a permanent the $5 million. That means forgo revenue of $5 million on top of all that. And for this year, the application of that is those on the SMRT lines that come into the specified stations for during the business district. They have increased the concessions on 10 cents to 30 cents, as well as widen the window period. So you can arrive a bit later now, 7:45, and enjoy the concessions, but not at 10 cents, but at 30 cents. So while we try and estimate and give you a ballpark figure of 80% of people will experience 2 cents increase and things like that, the reality is, if they change their pattern and they come to work earlier and enjoy the concessions of 30 cents now, then the savings is much more, it's different. Okay, so the options are there. If you ask me to specifically and say undeniably what will be the impact, it's very difficult to say. Depends how many people are going to take up the advantage and coming to work earlier and enjoy that 30 cents discount. So on the journey of 180, 30 cents discount is a lot. So it depends on that. Now then, the remainder of the CCL line is going to be open, and that's going to change travel patterns again. So our estimate is based on a static picture. That means as of now, before the opening of the new stations. But the reality is between now and next year, the actual result itself may be quite different. But I'm optimistic because additional stations means you give people more options. I'm optimistic because extending the window period, 15 minutes may not sound a lot, but those of us who have to wake up early knows that 15 minutes is a big difference. And I'm quite sure a lot of people will take advantage of that and come just a bit earlier, and the 30 cents increase per day, maybe once a week, give themselves a nice treat, for breakfast. So travel pattern I cannot predict, but I'm optimistic.
Mr. Ee,
Yes.
During the deliberations, were there at any time that ETC thinks that this year you won't make the change at all?
No change, no increase. Those questions always come in our mind, from 0 to the full 2.8%. It must be. But as I mentioned, our mandate is to find a balance between the two. We are forcing increase in quality standards. We are forcing operators to spend even more. I've given you the figures of how much it costs to put additional buses on the road. And 0 really is not finding a balance of the interest between operators and commuters. Should we choose midpoint, which always sounds very convenient, instead of 2.8, 1.4, right in the middle? But I think that will be a bit flippant. We actually look at all the feedback from the commuters. Commuters are not happy over a range of things. Commuters obviously is going to face other issues with inflation at over 5% already, because our statistics, there's always a time lag. So we even take up-to-date statistics and say, oh, this is the experiences of our commuters. Whilst we started off by saying, based on expected GDP and all that improve, but we don't ignore what people are experiencing now. So we start 0 to 2.8, and then we actually work out and look at the various factors and how do we actually achieve a balance, and then from a balance, how do we achieve the commuters' feedback and their needs. And since we cannot help everybody, we are also aware that we are pushing very, very hard for people to continue working past retirement. We know that we are a rapidly aging society, so it is a pressing need to address that quickly, so senior citizens get the priority for this year. Next year, we will look at another segment and see how we can help them.
Calculations of what the average is at this point. How did you arrive at the average of fare increase of 15 cents per week?
That's based on a static assumption of family of 4 and the general patterns. I mean, this is always a confusing thing every year when we announce fare adjustments, where we make certain assumptions that your travel patterns during the week and travel patterns during the weekend is a little bit different. Eugene, you want to shed a little bit more light on this side?
Okay. Basically, we will look at the snapshot in time of the total travel population based on the card travel. From there, we will then run the numbers. LGA will help us run the numbers as our technical agent and come up with what would be the average fares to be applied. That is how we give you the average number. We want to be very clear, this is an average number because you will of course have the outliers at both ends. So depending on your own personal travel patterns, your origin, your destination, whether you do transfers or not transfers, that will give you different impact. But the average, the total projection is 15 cents per week.
Actually, we debated about it. I myself was quite hesitant about giving out these sort of figures. Because where you draw the line, there will always be outliers, people with different travel pattern, different experience. And this year, I thought maybe we could have just kept silent on this, trying to give an average, since it's so challenging. Because having moved to distance base, the increase actually now is per journey, 2 cents, 1 cent. Then at the end of the day, whether your increase is going to be a lot, less, depends on your travel pattern. And now, because 5 days a week, Most people will be working. Depends on your choice of timing for travel as well. And if you choose to arrive at work, if you are working in the business district earlier, your savings is going to be more than what we can calculate. But of course, this depends on the individual. And then with the additional station or Circle Line opening, the whole experience will be very different. So no way, I'll be the first to tell you this is very, very average, but you can always easily find examples that's going to be totally different. Not just outliers.
You're not looking at outliers, but you're looking at 85% of the users, right?
Yeah.
And you say the
1 to 2
most
cents
of them,
increase.
most EasyLink card journeys do up a few cents, right?
1 to 2 cents.
1 to 2 cents. The maximum will be 2
Because that
cents.
includes senior citizens.
Yeah.
That includes senior citizens.
Correct.
Senior citizens, how many percent of our travelers?
About 15% perhaps.
So it's
But I can come back to you on that.
minority.
Yeah, we can come back to you the
2 cents
figures.
Of the majority,
Mm.
2 cents would be majority.
Yeah.
And 2 cents per person
Mm.
per day.
Mm.
Let's say he makes a minimum of 2 trips.
Mm.
That's 4 cents,
Right.
right? 4 cents times 7.
Mm-hmm.
Or you are saying you need to travel on weekends or not?
Yeah, weekly. Yes.
Weekly. So
Yeah.
that would be what?
7 4 28.
28 cents.
Yeah.
28 cents.
And all he needs is to arrive 1 day early with extra 20 cents discount. It goes down to.
That is provided he wants to wake up earlier.
We assume you make certain assumptions that at least a number of people they must be working, a big bulk of them, you know. So you have to take an average and just say, okay, out of the total population.
This was based on status quo.
Okay, but
Yeah.
maybe we can also address that because that is assuming that everyone travels 2 times a day, every day for 7 days.
You normally would travel 2 times.
But
Yeah.
there will be other people.
You go there and come back.
No,
Yes, of course. That's correct.
although it's status
Yes.
quo, status quo, but now we're talking about how much change in terms of the increase. So together the increase, we cannot ignore other changes that's happening, right? You cannot just say independently, we just look at the 2 cents, 1 cent increase, but totally ignore that the off-peak period itself, the discount has increased also. Because it's a package. When you take it,
Go for the discount.
no, but when you take it as a total package, that's how you arrive at 1%, right? So you have to look at the component that is there in order to reduce the revenue or allow the maximum increase of revenue up to that 1%.
The 5 million set aside by SRC is based on the expected take-up.
Yeah.
But if nobody takes up, the 5 million is, we don't spend the 5 million.
No, we will apply for some other things. The commitment of 5 million is permanent. So every year we have 5 million to use to see how it can benefit commuters. So we'll be tracking very closely the commuter patterns. And the off-peak discount is only one aspect of using the money. So we have the whole year until the next adjustments to make use of the 5 million to benefit commuters. So that commitment is permanent already.
Yeah, but let's say I don't wake up early.
Of course, there will always be some who choose not to wake up early, and then it'll be that lah. So you take an average. There are a number of people. This extra saving of 20 cents off peak times 5 days.
15 cents increase is provided you wake up early.
Well, you have 15 minutes extra window period. No, average. Not everybody is going to wake up early. Some will and some won't. And it's safe to assume that because in the balance, while you calculate 2 cents times 7 days, 2 cents times 2, 4 cents times 7 days, I don't think it's fair if you don't also assume a certain number of people who will see the benefit of 20 cents a day times 5. That's $1. So if 4 times 7, 28 cents is a very big issue for them, $1 must be a bigger issue. I cannot see people who have to pay more by 28 cents not wanting to benefit by $1 discount and overall save 70 over cents. So the individual will have to see and say, hey, 28 cents is a lot of money. And all I have to adjust is coming a few minutes earlier because now it's go up to 7:45. And for the 5 days, I'm going to get a discount of $1. Minus the 28 cents, there's a lot of savings. So you have to make certain assumptions. it's not going to be highly accurate, but you have to take a position and say, okay, in the balance, we think this is a percentage.
The same as the assumptions for the 15 cents per week.
Well, once you go into per week, you have to make assumptions of travel patterns and things. You assume that on weekends, people will go shopping or do this or whatever it is. And those assumptions, easily you can always poke holes on them.
Anyway, 2 journeys is the minimum.
Of course,
We have assumed that, yeah.
but we must also not assume that they travel every day by public transport.
Yeah.
There will be people who are not. So we look at the total population of the car travel patterns. And that's why you have the above 15 and the below the 15. And how you get the below 15 is because people may not make the 2 trips or 2 journeys every day of the week for 7 days. So when you average everything up, you get 15 cents.
Yeah.
That is why we are saying 15 cents is just a statistical number, an average number. It really depends on the individual's travel patterns.
Actually, that's why we debated whether or not to provide that slide.
I think
But every year we've been providing it, so the conclusion is if we don't provide it,
You are asking.
you all will ask how come this year you don't give us an average. But the challenge of it is exactly those questions are in our mind.
I think the focus should
Yeah.
be how much you pay for that journey extra. And that is 2 cents or 1 cent, irrespective of the number of buses or numbers of transfers. Previously, if there was a 1 cent increase, it's 1 cent increase for every trip, for example. Yeah. But this time, it is for your whole journey. So it's a very
It's
different
not
concept.
even by fare stages
Yes.
or anything. Just
It is-
your whole journey, you pay 1 cent more or 2 cents more. At the same time, you have an option to claw back all that by arriving at work if you're working in the business district a bit earlier. And 7:45 is not that early.
For some.